Warcrow Adventures is the new and exciting fantasy dungeon crawler from our friends at Corvus Belli. But is this game for you? This video is here to help. Let's get into it. Welcome to Corner Case. You're in the hobby corner. I'm your host, your hipster gnome bard, and your best friend, Deck. In this video, we'll go over what is Warcrow Adventures. We'll go over a little unboxing, we'll do a little gameplay, and we'll talk about the mechanics and figure out if this game is indeed for you. This video is meant to be as comprehensive as possible, so it is time-stamped for your convenience. But if you do enjoy what we're throwing down, we please appreciate it if you watch the entire video as much as possible. And if you are enjoying what the channel is doing, please like and subscribe. While we're here, a big Andy's Room thank you to our community over at Patreon and Discord and our subscribers here on YouTube. Really appreciate the support. Doing great things for the miniature gaming community at large. Corvus Belli did graciously provide Corner Case with a prototype version of the game and app. These are not full experiences of the game and app. All of the opinions on this video and on the channel are my own based on my experience with these prototypes. Lastly, I would like to introduce myself and my bias to newcomers to the channel. I am primarily a miniature wargamer and tabletop RPG player. Board games and dungeon crawlers are not where I spend the bulk of my time. However, browsing the channel, you will find that I have played quite a few, and I do like to study game mechanics and the business of gaming as a whole. My primary interest in Warcrow is the upcoming skirmish game after Warcrow Adventures. I am interested in getting into a fantasy skirmish game, but I don't like any of the current options on the market now. I am a big fan of Infinity the Game and the universe, and Corvus Belli has been absolutely killing it with first-class releases over the last couple years, and so I am very excited for this upcoming Warcrow project. Quick overview of the world and its people. Warcrow is the new fantasy horror setting created by our friends over at Corvus Belli. We play in the world of Lindworm, which is orbited by a magical shard. And this magical shard affects the magical power on Lindworm, much like the moon affects the tides here on Earth. Lindworm is under siege by this mysterious fog. Not much is known about it except that it is very, very bad. The events of this first release of Warcrow Adventures occur in the bustling port town of Hawthorne Point. It is Lindworm's cultural melting pot and the perfect place to start our first story. If you'd like to know more about the world of Warcrow Adventures, I am posting as many resources as I can in the description below. Corvus Belli has been posting a lot of useful resources, specifically their Whispers of Lindworm series, covering a variety of topics from lore, gameplay, game design, the world building, and Hoopa is an absolute joy to watch, and she'll make you wish she was your real ass friend. The communities also pulled together a lot of the information on Human Sphere, and our channel has already posted quite a few videos on Warcrow Adventures, including an interview with the development team. So we'll link all of that good stuff in the description. Now let's get into the stuff. Since I cannot guarantee that the prototype I was provided with is done in the final production materials, I'll be focusing my first impressions as much as possible on the design of all the assets. We'll go into what's in the box first and then into the app. To start off, the box art is super nice, super minimal, just the logo, at least on this prototype I was provided with. I know that this is different from what is showing on the Kickstarter, but it really makes me wish I could collect both. The printed cards and assets are all really clear. Across the board, I think the graphic design of this product is really appropriate. Everything reads very clearly, it speaks fantasy, it has a serious tone. The character artwork is really first class. It's serious, it's detailed, but it also feels approachable. The tiles are clearly illustrated. They are grounded in reality, but they also are not distracting from the models. And they're clearly marked so that putting them together is very easy. I'm a miniatures gamer first and foremost, and I love what I am seeing. The models in Warcrow Adventures are exactly the type of quality that I have come to expect from Corvus Belli, arguably the best miniatures company on the market in terms of designs and sculpts. One thing that I absolutely love about these character designs and the models is that they tell such a great story about the world in their designs. There's such a diversity of colors, shapes, proportions. You can look at the stark contrast between the hard, defined edges of Sokka's armor with the pulsing, violent heap that is the Kiplecht. Darach's asymmetrical and natural armor contrasts with Ludovind's disciplined and manufactured uniform. Each group of people within Lindworm has such a defined design language that tells a story about their culture. I wouldn't hesitate to say that this is probably the best art direction that I have seen for a fantasy tabletop game so far. So this comes with the territory of the contemporary boxed game experience, but for my taste, there is still quite a lot of stuff. There are the dungeon map tiles. You have your iPad with the app out. Each character has both its model and its accompanying control panel, along with equipment and ability cards. Then there's dice, the initiative tracker. So this is more of a critique on the current board game design metagame as a whole. Seasoned board gamers and dungeon crawlers may not be fazed by this. The Kickstarter metagame demands a lot of physical items in the box, and a lot of these items that they're using to organize the information in Warcrow Adventures are completely par for the course. The control panel, the ability cards, the equipment cards, the dice, all this stuff is not new, and as far as the execution goes, Warcrow Adventures does it as well as the rest of them. I happen to play Eldritch Horror and Scythe. Those are my favorite board games, and they have the exact same items, the control panels, the plethora of cards. So this is a critique on the space as a whole, which I may just not be the primary consumer for, but I do believe apps are helping. So speaking of the app, Warcrow Adventures comes with an app that takes over the GM role for this narrative game. And I think this is such an amazing accomplishment, especially for a company as small as Corvus Belli. I want to say that I am very aware that many people have different opinions about apps in tabletop games. However, you're watching Corner Case, and on this channel, our point of view very overwhelmingly is that apps are a great way to streamline the informational part of the game so that we can focus on the tabletop, on the models, and on the immersion. And I think this app does exactly that. The prototype app takes the playgroup on a mission to investigate a disappearance with the suspicion of foul play. The app wastes no interactions, jumping straight into exposition, followed by map setup, and boom, you're playing the game. From there, you reference the app only as you interact with objects on the board. The experience was very smooth, requiring very little to no exploration of functionality to get it to work. Returning viewers of the channel know that I think too many books are printed for tabletop games. However, I would like to offer a unique benefit that I discovered while playing through this app. The app really got me in the mood to read through the narrative passages with voice acting like a traditional dungeon master. However, because I was experiencing these narrative events occur live on the app with my playgroup, I actually was surprised alongside my playgroup And at one point, my playgroup and I also took turns reading the passages. I can see a coordinated attempt where each individual could potentially take over the voices of different characters. And I think that experience was really fun. It was really spontaneous. It just happened through playing with the app. And that's not something that would ever happen in a traditional D&D game or any dungeon crawler not using an app to manage the GM system. The small touches in the art direction of the app, like text fading in very slowly and going away very slowly, added a lot to the dramatic effect of the narrative while still maintaining that imagination play that we love as tabletop gamers. The only thing I think I was missing was a soundtrack, which maybe the prototype just didn't have it and maybe it's incoming. If it isn't clear already, I am super on board with this app. I think this app takes on just the right amount of responsibility of doing the GM duties without distracting from what's occurring on the tabletop. Only time will tell how well the system is managed, but this is a very, very confident start from Corvus Belli, and it makes the game so accessible for new players and people who have never played before, but may be interested in a dungeon crawler. It takes the pressure off of the host of the game, because now you don't have to prep the GM materials as much. Now let's jump into the gameplay. The game differentiates between combat and non-combat times, and players are using the initiative tracker in both modes. I think of all the mechanics in Warcrow Adventure, the initiative tracker is the most unique, so I want to start by talking about it first. I'll start by saying that I am an absolute tabletop RPG junkie in addition to con one-shots of a million flavors. I've spent actual years playing D&D, Call of Cthulhu, Edge of the Empire, City of Mist, and within that context of that experience, I think that this initiative tracker is very, very fun. The simple way to explain how it works is each character has an initiative value, and this initiative value determines their starting position on the initiative tracker and also how frequently they are able to activate within a game round. You can see here that my playgroup opted to play with Darach, Ludivine, and Soka, who occupy spots 3, 4, and 5 on the initiative tracker to start, respectively. Darach, starting with an initiative value of 3, means that he starts first at position 3. After he acts, his marker is moved to position 6. He acts again at 6. His marker is then moved to position 9. He acts again at 9 for a total of 3 activations within the game round. So you can see how initiative is like potentially quite powerful. And then when we visit Darach's card later, you'll see that Darach can do their actions in such a way that it decreases the frequency of their initiative value, the frequency of their activation within a game round for the trade-off of potentially more powerful actions. So a very dynamic system already. Characters on the same initiative slot act in the order in which they are stacked. So if Ludivine's marker is stacked on top of the marked, then Ludivine will act first, then her marker will be moved to position 8. Then the marked will act, their marker will then be placed on top of Ludivine's on position 8, at which point the marked will act before Ludivine. So between these two examples of Darach and the Ludivine with the marked, you can see how the initiative tends to mix up within the game round, which makes it a much more dynamic, exciting, and slightly unpredictable system than what I would consider a very static system like D&D. Very exciting, very fun, and I think kind of the beating heart of this game. I think the experience being tactile solves the problem of remembering what order initiative is in, especially in this very dynamic system. And I think there's a cleverness to the fact that you are physically stacking the markers. I think that makes it fun and tactile and clever. And I just can't get enough of this system, at least within the context of Warcrow Adventures, the Dungeon Crawler. Actions are done via the control panel and ability and equipment cards. I think this is nothing new to seasoned board gamers and dungeon crawlers, but we'll quickly go over it. Darach has an energy value of 3, can spend 3 energy on 2 actions or 1 action, and some actions change Darach's frequency of activation. This is a great way of simulating that those actions are either taking longer or they are more taxing for Darach. It's also a great way mechanically to balance Darach, his power level or his ability to act fast and often. Some final notes about gameplay. This game does use a gridded movement system and uses an escalation of colored dice for both offense and defense. Some of the sides of those dice do turn on with special effects. So I think these are all pretty standard fare in the metagame of contemporary board game design. So I didn't feel like going too much into them, but that is the situation. My biggest questions about the gameplay are about how the mechanics transfer over to the skirmish game. Will there be any similarity at all, or is it going to be a complete deviation? I can see mechanics like the initiative tracker and the control panel technically still working at a skirmish game level, but I do have questions about how all of that pans out when you have 10 to 20 models per side in this PvP battle. I think it could get pretty messy. So I do expect that there will be a little or a lot of deviation to the skirmish game, but Warcrow Adventures, I'm pretty sold already as a good dungeon crawler. In conclusion, I have a lot of optimism for Warcrow Adventures. I can feel the full weight of Corvus Belli's creativity behind this game. This is a passion project. I can feel that off of them, and for that, I have confidence. If you are a dungeon crawl person, like a Gloomhaven person, I think this is up your alley. If you played Imperial Assault like I have, I think this is up your alley. If you're a board gamer, I think that it is familiar. If you're a miniatures gamer, then this is the narrative experience that you may want. And if you're more of the D&D, or even if you're a Pathfinder guy, then this might be for you. I think the app taking over GM duties is absolutely clutch to keeping this game off of the shelf and on the table. The app just makes it so smooth to run with very little prep. I think my only critique of the app is so far it was a limited functionality, but if they were able to include a tutorial mode, I think that would absolutely keep the game off the shelf and on the table. New players and players who have never played board games very much before or at all, people who want to run these narrative games but they don't want to GM. These are all people who now can very easily experience a great narrative fantasy game with very little to no prep beyond opening the box and setting up all the stuff. Corvus Belli is a great small company with a huge heart, and I really want to see this project succeed and do great things for the community and the industry at large. I hope that this video was helpful to you if you were curious about Warcrow Adventures and were hesitant to pull the trigger without knowing more. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. Again, this was a lot of content and I probably still missed a lot of stuff, but if you have any questions on the comments, we will do our best to take care of you. And again, lastly, please like and subscribe. We're always appreciative. Thank you, everyone on Patreon, also our Discord, also all of you subscribers. Channel growth has been great. Also, shout out to Corvus Belli for sharing the prototype game with us. Happy adventuring, Zoromono mode. Next time.
Venerate the Emperor by subscribing now. Only in death does subscribing end.